I sort of made a video about this yesterday with the whole Joe Rogan realizing that his mate, Dave Smith, was a bit of a dingbat by being beaten by Coleman Hughes with facts, reason, and logic. And maybe we should actually be telling the truth on a major platform and not lying and not bowing down to these false ideas because they sound good or these emotional ideas, because that's what it's all coming down to nowadays, is this highly strung emotional idealized thing that is being thrown out at the forefront, and social media has played a massive role in that. And I see what happens over on X, and you sort of like are having to correct yourself and go, well, is this actually real, or is this AI, or is this like clickbait to get people's attention? It's kind of like rage bait, like when you say on a video title, it's for the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't really care. And I know this to be true because you guys wouldn't be able to see any of my videos without the titles. The titles are just the titles, right? They're just to get people to watch the video. And if you guys watch the full video, then you can kind of get the full context. And I think context does matter, and you can't really give people a great deal of context in a title per se. Some titles may be utterly outrageous, and then you read the full context and you're like, oh, well, okay, well, fair enough, right? And people will revert back to the title and say, well, you got me. Yeah, that's the whole point. We were meant to get your attention so you can watch the full context of the video. And I think social media has sort of conditioned us in many respects, but at least you guys know, if you watch my videos, if you're new here, fantastic. I hope that you stay along for the ride. It's an incredible ride. But if you go back and you watch all my videos, I've been relatively consistent in calling to attention this whole false narrative agenda that lots of people seem to have that call themselves on the right, but they're bad faith. Okay. They're not very genuine people. And I think in today's day and age, you could be very, very careful because they're saying very provocative things, and loads of people that aren't doing their due diligence and not really researching the person and what that person has said will automatically believe them. Just straight away, I'm going to believe what you said. And case in point, the whole Tucker Carlson issue with people saying, well, he is an anti-Semite. He's saying these horrible things, which he actually is. And people are online going, well, Megyn Kelly's not calling him out, and she's not calling out Candace Owens, and Charlie Kirk wanted to build bridges and have friendships with everyone. And that was, I guess, one of Charlie's, one of a positive thing about Charlie is he wouldn't cut people out of his life because he disagreed with them. And I don't think we should cut people out of our life because we disagree with them. It's life. We disagree with people all the time. But I think there's a difference between, and we'll get into the whole point of this in just a moment, because Ben Shapiro has been bringing attention to this, which is actually pretty clever, which is something that I've been doing quite some time. The only difference is Ben has a much bigger voice than I do. So it'd be great if, this would actually get out. And it all comes from this, by the way, the Bible. The Bible is quite clear with what you're supposed to do in these sort of situations. If you've got bad faith individuals saying the wrong thing, and you've got people that are refusing to call out what that person is saying over friendship. Anyway, have a watch of what Ben Shapiro has to say about this, and we'll make a couple of comments after.
This president is very close with somebody who has been attacking you quite relentlessly for a few years now, Tucker Carlson. Speaking of Nazi insignia, Carlson has repeatedly hosted a historian who engages in World War II revision that, in my opinion, aims to portray the Nazis in a less villainous light, shall we say. Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly both talk about feeling pressured to cut ties with Carlson. What's your take on the vice president's friendship with Tucker Carlson? Is it significant?
I mean, I'm not going to police friendships between people. I will say that, once again, I think that when people make what are clearly ugly arguments, or when they hide behind guests in order to make ugly arguments without ever asking a single difficult question, or when they continue to use their platforms in order to promote nonsense, then I do think that people of good heart could condemn that. And that has nothing to do with friendship. I think that, we all have friends with whom we disagree and who we believe hold bad views. But if we're in the public sphere and we're speaking on public policy all the time and on ideas, then I'm not sure why that should grant some sort of blanket immunity to the criticism of the ideas. I mean, again, there are people at my company with whom I disagree, and we publicly will have those disagreements and air them. And Batya, you and I disagree on a number of things, and I'm sure at some point you've criticized my ideas. I'm sure I've criticized yours, and we're friendly. I mean, I don't really see why these two things are mutually exclusive. I think that there is a bit of a Mott and Bailey game that's going on where people will refuse to condemn bad arguments, ugly arguments, morally specious arguments. And then when you say you're refusing to condemn those bad, morally specious arguments, and you really should, just because you're willing to express your opinion on everything, why not that? And then they retreat to the Bailey, which is, well, actually, you're just saying I don't want to be friends with. Yeah, I can't be friends. You can be friends with whomever you want. No one's saying that you can't have somebody over for dinner. What we are saying is it's kind of weirdly and oddly uncomfortable that you go silent on views when they are expressed by quote unquote friends, when that friend happens to be a public figure. Nobody's asking you to condemn your Uncle Jim for making a racist joke at the dinner table publicly. That's not what we're talking about here.
Again, if you have a friendship with a person and you call that person out for what that person has said and they get angry at you and they remove the friendship, can you really say that they were your friend to begin with? That was a very, very light or soft friendship, if you ask me. I think a good friend will call you out if you have said something that is wrong or isn't accurate according to the Bible. A good friend will call you out on it. And if you can't refute it with the Bible as well, or if you can't go, well, this is what and look, if you're going to get rid of someone as a friend because they've actually done the right thing and called you out on something, then maybe you should do a little bit of soul searching and look at your own heart and your own mind, because that is really, really weak. And I think in this particular space, loads of people, and yes, there are people that are saying you've got to remove them as a friend and everything else, which I think is wrong. In this space in particular, as Ben has pointed out, and I've pointed out as well, there's a difference between the ideas that people are sharing versus the actual friendship. And if you are in a public setting like we are, you have a number of followers, which Tucker Carlson refused to debate Ben Shapiro, and he just loved attacking Ben for some dumb reason. It's because I think Tucker is actually really scared of Ben, because if Ben can have the viewpoint like this, imagine the kind of conversation that Tucker and Ben would have. Not to mention that Tucker is actually a dingbat. When you listen to him for more than 5 seconds, you realize what he's saying is utterly insane and outrageous. But when you listen to Ben, there's actually thought behind it. There's logic, there's reason, there's rationale, all the things that we love and hold dear to a healthy functioning society, not just this emotional rant. And it's not to say that I don't agree with everything that Ben says, because I don't. I disagree with a number of things Ben has said in the past. But I guess in today's day and age, if you hear someone that says something that actually makes sense and is right and it's biblical as well, you bring attention to that. And if they're also making a great point, like Ben was making, like I've made many, many times, then you point it out. You make it abundantly clear that it doesn't mean you stop being friends with somebody, but it just means that we've got to have a massive, I guess, upheaval of the right per se, because you've got these bad faith individuals that kind of hijacked it and created this this particular narrative that it's quite concerning to me. It's like they've lost all ability to think, especially I think that's partly because of social media, but all the commentators, it's like they've lost this ability to think properly. Like Matt Walsh the other day, got to unite with the right, even the alt-right, unite with them all. And he chucked the dummy spit because people were going, no. He's like, oh, you don't understand what I'm saying. Elaborate. Same thing. So, and the fact Megyn Kelly refuses to call out Candace Owens, it's just, or Tucker Carlson, because she's friends with Tucker, and she seemed to think that, oh, it's a left thing to do. No, it's not a right or left thing to do. It's an accountability thing. It's far more important. Anyway, that's enough from me. You guys take care of your both, and I'll see you all in the next video.